What's going on, everybody? Today is Wednesday, May 2nd, 2012, and this is episode number 7 of the Diablo Daily. Today's episode is going to be all about crafting and the Artisans. We're going to take a look at what crafting was like back in Diablo 2, how it's going to be changed in Diablo 3, and what the heck the Artisans are and what they'll do for us. But first, I really want to take a little bit of time and, well, obviously talk about some announcements, but Blizzard just released some new information about the auction house, about this thing they're calling Global Play, and they also released a pretty sweet commercial. Not the first one that I tried to show the other day, but a second commercial that was pretty exclusive to one particular site that I don't remember the name of, but some guys got it up on YouTube, so we're going to check it out on YouTube in just a couple minutes. First off, though, I believe the Diablo 2 ladder is actually done being reset and back up. Bashiok said it should have been done by 2 p.m. I haven't checked myself, so I'm assuming that things worked out and went relatively well. But otherwise, I'm thinking about playing some D2 ladder tonight. I don't really have anybody that's going to be playing with me, so anybody from the chat that wants to play with me is more than happy to. Right before I start, I'll probably tweet it, so make sure you're checking, my Twitter at Sixen. I'll let you guys know. I'll probably join like the Diablo, like a channel called Diablo Daily or something along those lines. I'll let you guys know. I'm probably just gonna work on some homework right after this because I'm taking some summer classes. So yeah, working on a little bit of homework, and then I'm gonna do some Diablo 2 laddering later tonight. And yeah, like I said, you guys can play with me. So. Now, as far as this ad spot goes, I definitely want to show this off, and I made sure it buffered all the way before I am going to try and play it. So let's just jump right into that, and I'm going to take a little bit and talk about what it is that we're looking at. So here we go. Alright, well, apparently on this YouTube video there's no sound, but that's not a big deal, because it's really just the video that I wanted to show off. Yeah, see, that was that. It all happened so fast. But that was literally the most important thing that I wanted to show off. And what I did was, beforehand, I went ahead and checked out, let me put on my webcam, I went ahead and took screenshots and whatnot of the very few clips that I really wanted to show off. So throughout the video, and let me put this on my screen, we saw the meteor falling. Remember, the meteor from Diablo 3, like from the gameplay trailer, it shows this meteor falling and hitting Tristram, and we don't really know what happens after that. You know, it just crashes into the cathedral. Deckard Cain falls in, and whatever. Leia just gets all worried, and that's kind of it. And then when we get in the beta, we find out Deckard Cain's not dead, and we end up rescuing him from some skeletons, and that's that. But turns out that this meteor is not actually a meteor. It's Imperius, one of the angels on the Anguirus Council. And Imperius, again, is the Archangel of Valor, so his whole thing is he always wants to be fighting. So this whole meteor thing falling, it's not a meteor, it's Imperius, and for some reason when he falls, all of the dead things in Tristram end up rising from the graves, which is, again, how we start fighting all these old monsters, and King Leora comes back, and that's kind of the gist of that. But I really wanted to point that out. This isn't a meteor, and this has been like one of the theories for quite some time, until now, where we actually get some kind of confirmation that this is actually Imperius. What I did was I kind of just went through and took a screenshot frame by frame as he fell down, and then this is kind of what popped up. So the next one I wanted to show off was this. Now, what we've got going on here is Imperius, the angel, and we've got Diablo. So we've got Imperius fighting Diablo, which is kind of crazy. So, I mean, obviously this is pretty huge for the storyline, and I mean it's not really spoiling anything because we just watched it in the video, and anybody who saw it on TV saw it as well. But what we've got going on here is Imperius fighting Diablo. So, as far as storyline goes, this is huge. Like, this is completely mind-blowing. Like, what is Imperius doing fighting Diablo, and where are the other angels? Of course, they might be around here, and we just don't see them. But again, we see Imperius fighting Diablo hand-to-hand. That is pretty huge. And the next, and actually the last shot that I wanted to show you guys was this one. What we've got going on here is Imperius and Tyrael, and they're fighting each other. basically the shot starts off from like a bird's eye perspective, and you see both of them. They're kind of like buff up, and their wings flare and everything, and you can see it's clearly Imperious and Tyrael. And then we've got Imperious like shoving him up against the wall and choking him out, kind of a thing going on. I don't really know if he can choke them out because they're angels and they're not like, I don't know how they breathe. But yeah, so basically we've got Imperious fighting Tyrael. And again, Tyrael is the Archangel of Justice, another angel on the Anguirus Council. And I mean, as far as why they're fighting, who knows at this point. All I can say from past experience is that Tyrael was the one of the angels. He was actually the swing vote back during the Sin War to keep the Nephilim alive. And Imperious was one of the angels that were really, really against destroying everything. Again, angels aren't necessarily good and demons aren't necessarily bad. There's just light and dark, and they're always fighting. So we've got this Archangel Imperious who always wants war. Like, that's his thing. He's the Archangel of Valor. He always wants to be fighting. That's just like it's his signature. Tyrael is justice, so he's always seeking justice, whether it be against his own people or whether it be against some other race, like the Nephilim or the demons or whatever. But basically, so they're kind of like, imagine them like two brothers, basically. I mean, essentially they are kind of like a big family, but imagine Tyrael and Imperious being, an older brother and a younger brother. And Tyrael is supposed to be like the older, wiser, I guess older, wiser brother, whereas Imperious is kind of the younger, and he's very hot-headed. He just wants to go after stuff. And Tyrael's like, well, no, we can't do that. Just hold your horses, because essentially they are kind of similar in nature. Archangel of Justice, Archangel of Valor. The only difference is Tyrael is seeking obviously justice, and our Imperious is always looking for a war. Whether it be for the right reasons or wrong reasons, his thing is war. He's very courageous and brave. He always wants to be the first one in there. So you can think of him as like the king's #1 warrior, and Tyrael being the king. It's that kind of sense. So the two of them always butt heads, and that's just kind of the backstory between them. So yes, as you can see, the two of them were fighting right there, and that's kind of the three really big things that I picked up on from this ad spot. So anyway, we've got this ad spot, we've got Diablo 2 ladder resetting, or should have already reset, I guess. And now we can jump right into today's topic, and that is crafting. Oh, actually, sorry. Ooh, hold the horses, Kevin. We've got two more updates. I'm just going to talk a little bit briefly about the auction house one, and that's this bad boy. Blizzard basically said, hey, we've got some updates for the auction house, and the only really important thing is that the real money auction house isn't going to be out on day one. They're going to take about a week to get that implemented. So yeah, day one, we're going to be able to use the gold auction house and not the real money one. That's going to be about a week away. So say May 21st or so. And then the second thing is that they actually gave us the numbers for real money transactions. So we've got a 15% PayPal transfer fee if we want to transfer our money from Battle.net to PayPal and cash out. We also have a 15% commodity fee and a $1 equipment fee. So if I sell a weapon or armor or a helmet or anything of those along those lines, things that don't stack, I get a $1 reduction from Blizzard's transfer fees, and then 15% off if I want to transfer it to my PayPal. So if I sell an item for $10, it goes down to $9, and then 15% off that, whatever that is. It's like $7.50 or something in that range. So it's either I cash to my Battle.net balance, and I keep my Battle.net balance, so I can't get the real money. It's essentially a Battle.net gift card of $9, or I can transfer it to my PayPal and get the $7.50 or whatever it turns out to be, $6.75, $7.75. It's something in that ballpark. So yes, that's kind of the gist of that. Now, if I'm selling, I believe, gold or anything else that stacks, like potions or materials, I don't know if gem stack, but yeah, you kind of get where I'm going with this. That's a 15% commodity fee, and the reasoning for that was because the seller might end up paying a more of a transaction fee than the buyer might, just because of how Blizzard's smart system works. What it does is it pulls, like, let's say you're searching for 500 gold, and you've got one person selling 100 gold, another person selling 250, and somebody else selling 150. Well, what it does is it'll purchase the cheapest gold for you. So let's say 250 is the cheapest. It'll grab that 250 first, and then it'll search for, another 250. So it says, okay, well, now the next set is 150, and that's cheaper. So it pulls that in, and then 100, and pulls that in. So basically, your Blizzard's smart system does whatever it can to get you the cheapest commodities for what you're looking for. So if somebody's selling it for 50 cents and somebody's selling it for 75 cents, it's going to first pull the 50 cents. And I guess what happens is the seller, if you have to pay a flat rate, the seller may end up actually paying to sell you their goods, which doesn't make sense. So Blizzard did originally promise to have just a flat rate as opposed to percentage based, but they wanted to keep it fair for both ends, so that's what they ended up going. So it's a 15% commodity fee plus a 15% PayPal transaction fee should you choose to cash it out. That's about as far as I'm going to go with that. I've got a Battle.net and Auction House episode planned. I think the weekend before Diablo 3 comes out. I think it's the last thing I'm going to talk about. So then we have this thing called Global Play, and let me just pull this up. Global Play separates the Diablo 3 servers into only 3 servers as opposed to 5 or 6, I believe, for StarCraft 2. We have the Americas, we have Europe, and we have Asia. And yeah, this is a little bit of a wall of text, and basically what it's saying is Diablo 3 is going to act just like Diablo 2 instead of acting like StarCraft 2. So, as a Diablo 3 player, you buy one copy of the game, and you can play on whatever server you want. And that's it. If I want to play on Europe, I can play on Europe. If I want to play in Asia, I play on Asia. Now, my home server, because my Battle.net account, my address on my Battle.net account is in America, so my home server is going to be America. That means that the only region I'll be able to access the Real Money Auction House on is my home server, which is America for me. But I'll be able to play on whatever server I want. So I'll just be able to log into the game, go to my options, and say, you know what, I feel like playing on Europe today. I'm going to play on Europe. I feel like playing with some friends in Asia, so I'm going to do that. I'm super happy about this because, like I said, it acts a lot more like Diablo 2 than StarCraft 2, so people don't have to worry about getting, 6 Diablo 3 Battle.net accounts or 6 Diablo 3 versions of Diablo 3 on their Battle.net account to play in different regions, like you have to do for StarCraft 2. I know that there are some StarCraft 2 players that have like a US account and an EU account and a Korea account, and it's just ridiculous because, that's 120 bucks right there. $180, sorry, just so you can play on different servers. So like I said, Diablo 3, you're gonna be able to play on whatever server that you choose to. And that's kind of the gist of that. So that covers announcements and whatnot. I'll probably talk more about Global Play in my Battle.net episode, although there's really not much else to say about that. Probably just touch on it a little bit. But today I wanted to get into crafting and the Artisans, like I've said before. So first, what we're going to talk about is crafting from Diablo 2. So let me find this. Here we go. Pull this up. So what we're looking at right now is the Ariat Summit. And actually, the Ariat Summit is like the go-to website for Diablo 2 stats. It's got all kinds of stats for items and spells, and it's a lot more in-depth than actually in-game text is. And I'm really hoping that Blizzard can do something along these lines for Diablo 3. I mean, I'm not expecting an Ariat Summit, because we already know that Blizzard has their game guide up on the D3 community site, so it's going to be relatively different. But they are looking for things to improve the site. So they want people to want to go to that site for information, for stats, and for I don't know, whatever else. Really, just stats is what the Ariat Summit was huge for, because they as the developers of Diablo have access to all that information, whereas we kind of don't. We'd have to data mine most of it. So yes, let's take a look at what we've got going on here for Diablo 2. The crafting system was actually relatively different than what we've got in Diablo 3. In order to craft things, you had to put stuff in a cube, and there were different recipes. So yeah, recipes, that's the same. There's recipes in Diablo 3. But for Diablo 2, in order to craft something, you had to use a particular recipe and put things in the Herodric cube. Once you put something in the Herodric cube, you kind of then hit transmute, and if you had the correct recipe, it would then be crafted. So there were things like, let me just jump here, and it's got a list of them. Yeah, so we've got hit power, we've got blood, we've got caster, and safety. Those are the 4 different affix types of crafting. And of course, there were other ways to craft, I guess. Like, I don't really know if you want to consider the cow level being crafted, because technically it was. In order to create the cow level in Diablo 2, the portal to the cow level, sorry, you had to put Wirt's leg, Wirt's wooden leg, and a Tome of Town portal in the cube, hit transmute, and it would do its thing, and then boom, you'd have a town portal sitting there. And that's how Uber Tristram worked. You had to get the organs, Yeah, that's kind of just how that worked, and the keys and whatnot. So all that pretty much worked the same way. I guess we can call that, consider that crafting because you kind of are. And then, of course, we have gem crafting, where you take 3 gems of, I don't know, let's say just a regular diamond. I think 3 regular diamonds in the cube go to a flawless diamond. And then 3 flawless diamonds go to a perfect. And then starting from the bottom, I think it's chipped, and then just um, chipped, flawed, and then regular, and then flawless and perfect is what I think it was. I could be wrong. But yeah, I believe it was just those 5 levels of gems. And of course, we had all kinds of different gems. There might have been 7 or 8 or so. I don't really remember all from the top of my head. It's like amethyst and diamond and emerald, sapphire, ruby, topaz, and skull. Wow. So I think it was 7. If I'm missing one, somebody's probably gonna yell at me. So yeah, again, off the top of my head, I think it was 7. But anyway, you got the 5 different levels of them, and you pretty much just stuck them in the cube to get them up. And as they leveled up, they got more like more stats. So let's say a flawless topaz did 18% plus magic find, whereas a perfect topaz might do 24%. And I don't remember if those are the exact numbers. I'm just pulling them out of thin air, but you guys get the point. So let's just take a look at what we've got going on here for Diablo 2. So this one is hit power. So basically, you got to get a specific type of helm with a rune, a perfect sapphire, and any jewel. Pretty straightforward, and that's kind of how it is for all of them. Perfect sapphire jewel, rune. We got a rune. So the recipes for this particular item are relatively the same. It really just depends on the type of rune and then what it is that you're trying to create. And that's hit power, and then we've got blood, and I remember these were actually pretty cool to make because it was lots of lifesteal. Yeah. Yeah, you got the same thing going on: rune, ruby, jewel, and item. And then we've got caster items, which probably do mana. Yeah, regenerate mana percentage. We've got, item, rune, gem, and jewel, same stuff. And of course, safety, which looks like resistances. I don't think I ever used these because they're relatively useless. So yeah, I mean, Diablo 2 crafting was pretty straightforward. There really wasn't much tricks to it. I'm trying to think if there's really anything that I missed. I mean, like I said, it was pretty straightforward. There's not much to talk about here. Um, there's also socketed items. I guess I should mention that. Oh yeah, and you can upgrade your items. Okay, so there's a little bit that I'm missing out on. So like I said, there's socketing items, and I believe that there was a recipe with a particular rune that you could add a random number of sockets. Although I never really did that because it was pretty iffy. Like I said, random number of sockets. I'd rather just run around and try and find something. And then of course there was the upgrade recipe, and I don't remember what the recipe to upgrade items were, but you had normal items, you had exceptional items, and then you had elite items. And what you could do is you put the item you want along with whatever else the recipe asked for into the cube, and you hit transmute. It did its thing, and then boom, you've got yourself the next level up. So if you were normal, you had an exceptional item. If you had exceptional, you then had an elite item. And that's just kind of how the tiers of Diablo 2 worked. So yeah, like I said, it's nothing really too complex. And again, the Ariat Summit has all these recipes listed. So yeah, I think that should probably cover everything for Diablo 2. I mean, I guess I could probably just briefly talk about rune words, and I think I touched on this last time. The rune words, like I said, were just basically you went and picked up runes from the wilderness, you put the runes into socketed items in a particular order, and then you had a rune word. Those aren't in Diablo 3, but I guess they're sort of kind of like a type of crafted item. So, I mean, I thought I should mention that, but yeah, there's really not too much to talk about in terms of crafting from Diablo 2. Diablo 1, there was absolutely no crafting. So yeah, let's just jump right into Diablo 3. And Diablo 3's crafting actually changed quite a bit. Sorry, I'm kind of just looking at my Firefox tabs. I'm just trying to clean stuff up so I don't have like 100 tabs hanging out. So yes, why don't we just check out the crafting page. And again, this is from the old Diablo 3 community site. It kind of just ran through things right off the bat. Yeah, I can't click on the images, no big deal. But this is really what I'm more concerned about, the small Q&A. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about how crafting has changed from the beginning of Diablo 3 to what we're at now. I'm going to talk about the Artisans and what it is that they are. And that should be it, and I'll wrap things up at the end with the community questions. Today's episode is probably going to be a bit shorter, and I think I say that every time and it never ends up being short. But I honestly think today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter than normal. Alright, so let's start talking. So we've got the caravan. Caravan, and actually I believe I mentioned this last time, was basically this literal caravan that should follow you around. Whether or not you see it, I'm not exactly sure, but actually I think they have a picture of it up here. Yeah, here's a small concept of it. That's pretty much what the caravan looks like. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we can see it in game from like it's what the blacksmith is standing behind in Diablo 3, and we'll see that in a video in a couple of minutes. But let's just talk about the Q&A real quick. So we've got the caravan, like I was saying. This caravan just follows you around, and these artisans and Leia and followers and whoever else may be following you, probably Deckard Cain, they jump in the caravan and they just travel with you, and that's how they kind of get around. So now, again, we've got these artisans. What exactly are artisans? Artisans are kind of replacing the Heraldric Cube from Diablo 2. We're no longer putting things in this Heraldric Cube to craft anymore. Now we have these three artisans, or well, there's two now, the blacksmith and the jeweler, and previously the mystic. I'm going to talk about all three of them, even though the mystic was removed. I'm going to mention her a little bit because she's probably going to be back either in a later content patch or an expansion or something along those lines. I think it's going to be important for me to mention her because I know we're going to see her in some way, shape, or form in the future. So again, we've got these three different types of artisans. We've got the blacksmith, which is the first one we encounter, the jeweler being the second one, and the mystic would have been the last one. So the blacksmith, similar to the followers, and actually all the artisans similar to the followers, we encounter them within the storyline. So the blacksmith is actually one that we do encounter within the Diablo 3 beta. His name is Hadrig Amon, and we actually we bring him down to what I believe is his house, like his cellar, and we kill a bunch of his friends, and then we end up killing his wife. And after we kill his wife, he's like, man, I don't know what to do with myself. She turned into a zombie, and your character's like, we did what we had to, like, don't apologize for killing them, you're doing them a favor. And then he's like, well, what do I do? My wife's dead. I need to give my life more meaning, so he offers himself, his services to you. He helps us complete one of the quests by like reforging Leoric's crown or something like that. You see a little animation of him, hammering away at it on his little anvil. So what does he do for us? He can craft items for us. So in short, the blacksmith just crafts items for us. However, he also can help us salvage items. Yes. So he crafts items for us and helps us salvage the items, or at least he used to. As of right now, we can salvage items. Actually, no. He salvages items for us still. Yeah, okay. So that changed like 3 times over already. So, all right, let's talk about this. So before we actually get into it, how do I find the artisans? Like I said, they're in the storyline. How do I use the artisans? They're just NPCs that we can run around and talk to in town. How do I salvage my items? That's changed a lot, and we're gonna actually check out a little bit of a video from the original announcement. So yes, that's pretty much it for this short Q&A. Let's check out the caravan preview, and again, YouTube's probably going to own me, so we're not going to be able to watch the whole thing. It's like 5 minutes long anyway. I don't really want to watch the whole thing. It's not that important. I'd rather just kind of sit here and briefly talk about what's already been changed. So yeah, we can just look at this video for a couple seconds, however long it'll last. So here we go. Let's pop that open. Actually, I guess it can't hurt for Jay Wilson to talk here and there. Right, so here's a concept art of the blacksmith. And this is what I was just telling you about. We meet Hadrig Amon right in Act 1. We jump down, and he pretty much has us kill his wife. I mean, she like turns into a zombie, and I was making a joke with this with Machine the other day when I was streaming the beta with him. Basically, she like vomits everywhere and then turns into a zombie. So yes, that's kind of the gist of that quest, and then like I said, he offers us the services. Now crafting, this is the important part. I'll probably pause it just to point some stuff out as soon as he opens up the UI. Come on now. Okay, so here's what we're looking at. We've got shop, which I don't even think we can shop at him anymore. We've got crafting, repair. He can repair stuff for us, I believe still, yes. Adding sockets is another big one. And we obviously want to train him. So what we've got going on here is we've got crafting from the blacksmith, we've got him having the ability to add sockets, and obviously training. Now, to train them, basically what that does is it just levels them up, and as they level up, they hit new tiers. Like I think the first one is just regular, then they get to like journeyman and apprentice, or I think apprentice is the first one. They get to journeyman and expert and whatever the levels are. We really can't go that high. Then we can only get them to like level 4 in the beta, and that was previously. Originally they required like tomes in order to be leveled up. Now it's just gold. Um, and they also required materials to be leveled up, and some materials, which is why you can only get to a particular level in the beta, some materials could only be found in further difficulties like Nightmare. So, we've got the blacksmith being able to craft items. Like I said, this is very different than Diablo 2. Diablo 2, we were able to just do it ourselves and just pop stuff into the Heraldric Cube. This time around, we have to actually go talk to this blacksmith who's going to be doing it for us. He'll be following us on the caravan. And he can pretty much just hook us up. And like I said, as he levels up, we can get stronger items. Now, these items aren't very specific items, like the things like they were in Diablo 2. In Diablo 3, it has like a random chance to spawn, whatever affix is, and on that affix has a random chance to spawn whatever stats, and with those stats, like from a range from like, I don't know, let's just say one of them, again, I'm going to use warmth, just because that one is probably the easiest one for me to point out. So let's say warmth does health regeneration. So I want to craft this sword, and it randomly spawns the affix warmth. So now on that affix, it does plus 5 to 25 health percent regeneration, and mine gets 17. Well, cool. Now I've got this 17%, let's say it's a helm. Let's say I've got this 17% health regeneration helm, and I pop that bad boy on, and now I run around, and I find something better. So I take it off and whatever, and I replace it. Now I pick up more items, and I salvage my items, and now I've got plenty of materials. I picked up some gold. I've got gold to pay for. I go back to town, and I want to try and make a better helm. So I go to the blacksmith. I craft the same helm, and this time it spawns, I don't know. I can't even think of anything off the top of my head. Let's just say eagle. And let's say, of the eagle does like plus, I don't know, attack speed. Again, I'm just making this up. So now I've got this plus 5 to 25% attack speed helm. So I've got, Sixen's Helm of the Eagle, and I just crafted that. So now I'm like, well, okay, I like that better. So I popped that bad boy on instead of using the one I found. So basically, the crafting system is just supposed to be a great way to itemize your character without having to worry about the randomization that normal items are. Of course, like I said, the affixes and stats on these items are going to be random, but there are some static things like, I don't know, it spawns within a particular defense range. Level requirement will never go up. Things of that nature. Basically, crafting, you're not supposed to be able to get like the best, top-notch items crafting, but you're supposed to be able to get relatively good items while crafting because it's a gold sink. So you spend your money to get these items, but then you don't have to worry about trying to find items in the wilderness. Of course, should you find something better, out in Sanctuary while you're hacking and slashing, congratulations, but use it. There's no reason why you shouldn't. But crafting is supposed to be this simple system to allow you to itemize your character without spending, hours trying to find whatever great items you want. Of course, like I said, you're not going to find the best items. So again, it's just another way to itemize your character. So yes, let's check out this video, see if there's anything else interesting I could talk about for a little bit. And actually, I already started playing it. There we go. There, they're just showing off the different things. Let's fast forward a little bit.
Armor. On top of that, all artisans have special abilities unique to them. The blacksmith can repair items, but most importantly, he can add gem sockets to some item types that do not already have sockets, regardless of the quality of the item. In addition, all artisans have training options so you can upgrade them, and talk options for that all-important gossip about what's happening in the world of Sanctuary.
Yes, thank you, Jay Wilson. You're the man. Alright, so let's fast forward a little bit. They start salvaging stuff pretty soon, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Yeah, so this is him crafting it. Basically, just you see the little status bar, and boom, it pops up in your inventory. And they're crafting more stuff. Okay, this should actually be good to talk about. And again, I mean, it's relatively straightforward. You pop the item in the socketing slot, And then boom, it's got a random amount of sockets, and each particular item can only have a certain amount of sockets. So as you can see, he's now got this gem that he can pop in, and boom, he's got one extra socket on the shield that has +7 dexterity from this whatever emerald. Okay, cool. Now, this is what I was shooting for, salvaging. The salvaging system, let me pause this. Salvaging system has changed quite a bit since this video came out. What is this? 2010. Okay. It's changed quite a bit since 2010. Right now we're going to look at what it used to be, and then we're going to talk a little bit about how it's changed. Right off the bat, boom, we've got this little thing here. This, I believe we started calling the salvage cube right off the bat, like back when they announced it. So here, he puts some stuff in the salvage cube. He adds more. He salvages it all, gets materials from it, and then collects it all and pops it in his inventory. Relatively straightforward. Like I said, this the crafting system is not very complex at all. All right, so I'm just going to pause it right there. And I'll probably, yes, we're going to shoot off to some other articles that I found on the Blizzard website. So, right there we saw the salvage cube, and that was what it was originally. That changed probably about a year later. So, now we've got these, instead of just the salvage cube, we've got the Cauldron of Jordan and the Nephilim cube. Now, what do these do? Cauldron of Jordan, here we go. The Cauldron of Jordan, what it does, as it says in the description, it allows you to sell items right from your inventory, no matter where you are, for 100% of the gold that you would normally get should you sell it to a vendor. So, this Cauldron has its good sides and it has its bad sides. Being able to sell items from wherever you are, not having to be in town, and get 100% of the gold profits that you would normally get from selling it to a vendor is pretty awesome, right? You don't have to worry about running back up to town. You can stay, out in the wild, hacking and slashing all these demons, and that was what Blizzard wanted. They didn't want to interrupt that flow of gameplay. Now, one of the problems, and this is a problem that I ended up running into all the time, was that I was so worried about making sure my inventory was clean that I pretty much just played with my inventory open. So I'd play with my inventory open, I would kill some stuff, pick it all up, sell it real quick, go on to the next pack. And that I didn't really think it wasn't fun, but it doesn't really make sense. Like, why would I do that? Well, I mean, I'm doing that because I don't want my inventory to fill up, and why should I stand around in one spot for 2 minutes trying to clear out my entire inventory when I can do it in 15 seconds as I progress through the game? Blizzard kind of didn't like that, and that really, really interrupted the flow of the game, more so than having to return to town. So another thing that they did was they introduced this Nephilim altar. Nephilim altar was for the skill system, so I'm just going to mention it because it kind of played along. The Nephilim altar required you to go to this altar in order to change your skills. And instead of being able to swap them wherever you are on the fly, you have to go to this altar. So Blizzard was like, well, you got to go back to town to use this altar anyway, so you might as well just go back to town and return, sell all your goods at the vendors there anyway. So they got rid of the Cauldron of Jordan. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the Nephilim cube. The Nephilim cube, of course, was the salvage cube. I mean, it wasn't the same exact thing. It had a little bit different function. It worked more similar to the Cauldron of Jordan than did the salvage cube. Remember, back in the salvage cube, you had to actually pop the items into that little box. With this Nephilim cube, you can just go through your inventory and click on items. Click on the Nephilim cube and then right-click on items, and it just automatically does it all. Cauldron of Jordan worked the same way. The only difference was the Nephilim cube created materials from the item, and the Cauldron of Jordan sold it for gold. Actually, if you guys are you can pick that up, Cauldron of Jordan, and Stone of Jordan from back in the day. It's a little bit of a throwback to the Stone of Jordan ring that was oh so popular during Diablo II. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And actually, while I'm on this article, I should probably mention they had a third kind of personal item called the Stone of Recall. And basically, the Stone of Recall it was like a personal town portal. If anybody plays World of Warcraft, it's like a Hearthstone. Don't kill me for relating it to World of Warcraft. It's just the easiest way to talk about that and explain it without having to go too much in depth. It was pretty much like a personal town portal. Nobody else could use it. You just use it and you teleport to town, and then you can take it back down to the wilderness. And that's just kind of how that worked. They sort of kind of got rid of that. They just placed it on the hotbar. Actually, let me see if it's in this article. Yeah, it's actually in this article here. where they talk about how they removed everything. Here you go. So instead of it being right here, or all the 3 items where they condense the stats page, put it right here, and they shove the Stone of Recall there. Again, Cauldron of Jordan was removed, and Nephilim Cube was removed as well. And actually, it says that right there. So yes, 2 of those got removed. You're going to have to run to town, but now you can do it with this very easy button right in the hotbar or a skill bar, and you can go back to town without a problem. Now, what we have is this problem where, how do we salvage items? Because previously, actually, previously we had to do it ourselves with the salvage cube and with the Nephilim cube. Well, now we have to do it directly through the blacksmith. So the blacksmith has this little interface where you can just drag and drop items, and he pops out the materials right for us, and we can then turn around and go here and craft items if we want to. So again, we have more of a reason to return to town, so we can salvage items and craft items, add sockets, whatever. So Blizzard is kind of changing the style. They don't really want to interrupt with the gameplay, but they want us having to go back to town for whatever reason. For breaks here and there, because it's probably good to do that. So that's kind of the gist of what we're looking at for the crafting system now. Like I said, today's episode is going to be relatively short. We're probably only looking at another couple minutes. I'm just going to touch on the blacksmith itself, and then I'm going to touch on the jeweler, because I haven't really talked much about the jeweler just yet. And then I'll talk about the mystic from my memory, because they actually took down the page. Not a huge deal, though. I remember quite a bit. So yes, let's look at the blacksmith. And I should mention that too. So yes, let's look at the blacksmith. No longer can we add sockets from the blacksmith. This was obviously a change, as we saw in the caravan preview. The blacksmith was able to give us socket slots. No longer does he do that. Now his main goals are to salvage items and to craft us new ones. And we can just take a quick look at the progression and the recipes. Actually, the progression is pretty cool. This was not what I was looking for. This was what I was looking for. Workshop progression, not item progression. So yeah, we've got his little shop, his little dinky ragtag shop here. We upgraded to the 2nd level. He's got some cool little lights going on. Now he's starting to get a little bit more buff, and then this one is really where it's really cool, because it's like, what it actually reminds me of is like these Warcraft 2 structures, like the catapult and these towers. If anybody played that game back in the day, like I said, I'm a huge Blizzard fan, so I started off playing Warcraft 2, obviously Diablo 1, and then I moved to Warcraft 2. So yeah, like I said, I'm probably going to be relating this stuff all the way back, and because Blizzard has been relatively the same conceptually, they kind of have, obviously not the same artists, although Samwise and some of the older guys are the same. They kind of have the same style going on, so yeah, this really reminds me of those old Warcraft 2 structures. Anyway, this is what the last level of the blacksmith looks like. There's 4 levels, like I said earlier. So let's just take a little look at his recipes. Now, right off the bat, he can craft us some pretty cool stuff. See, like I was talking about, we got this apprentice broadaxe, and it can summon random properties. We've got, armor, boots, crossbows, whatever you can think of. He can pretty much do it all. We've got, the first rare item pretty far off, level 15, not that bad. He can craft quite a bit, and actually, how we actually learn all these things are through, it's either tomes or scrolls. We give him this recipe, and we can pretty much we give it to him, he learns it, and then from that point on, he can craft that particular item. So what I'm assuming is we'll be able to put these up in the auction house. Relatively good way to get recipes through the auction house. Just a great use of the auction house, and because I mentioned it earlier, just kind of tie things together. So yeah, anyway, this is kind of the stuff we start off on. This is pretty boring. We all really want to see the last items. Now, we've got rare items here. As you can see, they're all rare. Pretty high up there. Yeah, this does... Let's take a look at the last thing we've got listed, because I was looking at this the other day. 442 damage per second. That is nuts. Nuts. 442 damage per second. We start off doing 7. So that's going to be pretty sweet. I remember I was looking at this while I was preparing for the show, and I was like, holy crap, that's a lot. I can't wait to get the game in my hands. And then I started getting all giddy, just because I'm so pumped for this game. But yes, it's kind of what we're looking at. Like I said, it's very straightforward. It's not that complex. It's not meant to be complex. Itemization is a huge part of Diablo. They're just kind of trying to give us another way to do it. So that's kind of what we got recipe wise. And again, this is what, like I was just saying um, before when I was showing you off how he levels up. Oh wow, there's actually 10 levels. I thought there was only 4. Interesting. So yes, we've got these 10 different levels, and I was listing them off. See, apprentice, journeyman. We've got a depth master, yada yada yada. And as he progresses, he actually learns new recipes, as you can see. And each one costs something different. So 2,000 gold for the first level. I think it goes up to 4,000. Yeah. And then as we get down here, wow, that's pretty intense. Yeah. See, here's back to requiring tomes and materials. And once we hit max level, we unlock all this good stuff. I'm actually pretty pumped. It's going to be relatively interesting to see people leveling up their artisans. Now, artisans, and I should have mentioned this before, artisans are account wide, they're not character wide. So I play my first character, and it makes sense. I play my first character. I unlock the blacksmith. I get him up to level 5. I don't really have a reason, if they were not account wide, I don't really have a reason to go and play, say, a witch doctor and level up my artisan, my blacksmith to level 5 again because I can just jump on my wizard. Items aren't soul bound or player bound. There's no binding or anything except for probably some particular quest items, and I think Jay Wilson mentioned that, but that's it. Only like important quest items that shouldn't be traded anyway. Items aren't soul bound. There's no bindings. So why would I spend time leveling up my alternate characters, artisans, when I could just jump on my main character, craft something, and then pass it along? Because I've got this shared stash, so I can just put it in the stash, log in with the new character, not even have to worry about muling. So Blizzard changed that originally and made it account wide. So like I said, you've got one blacksmith, one jeweler, and previously one mystic, no longer the mystic. So once you get your blacksmith to level 10, you can use him on any character you want, which is huge. So that's going to be awesome, being able to twink up your new characters just with these crafted gear. Once you start getting rich and farming Inferno, should be pretty cool. We've got some pretty awesome stuff here. I'm actually really excited to check this stuff out in game. Next guy I want to talk about is the jeweler. How we encounter the jeweler is we're not exactly sure, nor were we sure how we encountered the mystic. All we know is that we unlocked him at some point in the game through a quest, of course, similar to the followers and the blacksmith. So here we've got him having the ability to combine gems. We've got him having the ability to add sockets and remove gems. So, in a nutshell, he replaces the other functionality of the Herodric Cube. Instead of us having to get some ridiculous recipe to add sockets, he can do it himself. Instead of us having to find another recipe to remove runes and gems from an item, which he could do, I think with the Hell rune is what it was in Diablo 2, he can do it himself, of course for a short gold cost. And then of course he can combine the gems like the Roger Cube could. I think it's still the same, 3 gems, and you get to the next level. So yes, again, very straightforward. Let's just check out the levels of progression. And like I said, there's 10 different levels. I'm not sure how that plays effect into how this works out. Whether or not there's really only 4 different visuals, or if there's actually 10 different visuals and they only showed off these most important ones. So yeah, that was the last one. All right, so here's where we just make sure. Here's the one we start off on. Again, pretty dinky. And then we got level 2. Level 3, so now we're starting to get a little bit better, and then 4 is kind of where things just get ridiculously, like, flashy. Like, he almost looks like he's living in, like, Cinderella's castle. Yes, I'm going to California at some point in the near future, so we might be going to Disney. So, kind of got that on my mind. Anyway, we got Cinderella's castle here for the jeweler. We've got the Warcraft 2 towers for the blacksmith. And again, let's just check out some of his recipes and the progression. So yeah, the recipes, he's not really into doing items for us like I outlined a couple seconds ago. He's all about gems and putting gems in items and taking them out. And yeah, so we've got 3 gems for the next level. And actually, I should probably mention this. Materials, interesting. Page of jewel crafting. All right, so yeah, I should probably mention this. There's only 4 different types of gems, and it's amethyst, emerald, ruby, and topaz. We don't have the 7 like we had in Diablo 2. Not sure why they shrunk that, but they did for whatever reason. Yes, and I've got my relatively warm, relatively cold water, not ice cold water, so my throat should not be getting killed by this. So anyway, let's just check this out. Yeah, so we've got, oh, and then we have different levels. I think there's 14 total levels, unless they changed that. I think there's 14. Yeah, 13, here we go. Flawed, regular, flawless, perfect, yada, 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 yada. So yeah, they must have changed it, dropped it down to 13. Not a huge deal. But basically, the These are supposed to be very rare. Um, I'm not exactly sure if we can craft them. Actually, yeah, it does look like we can craft them. But as you can see, they require 20 tomes, which should probably be hard to get. I mean, it's supposed to be like the most powerful gem, and gems are going to be the only things we can socket into items. There's no runes, no rune words again. So again, socketing a gem, if you don't, let's just say if you don't socket an item and you don't put gems in it, then you're missing out. You don't have to use gems, but you're losing potential stats, whatever they are. Like for the topaz, better chance of more MF, or like a thorns aura almost. It does attackers take damage. For the ruby, we've got increased experience and extra damage on a weapon. So they all do different things based on what they are socketed into, similar to Diablo 2. But again, if you choose not to use this socketing system or the gem system, then you're potentially missing out. But I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. Diablo's being about being viable instead of being optimal. But I mean, I don't know. Itemization, like I said, is a huge part in the build that your character will play. So I'm just going to leave that out there, just some food for thought. So let's just check out so the recipes he gets, like I showed off. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty boring, I guess. It's pretty much just flawless, radiant, all the stuff you unlock by the end of the level. And these are just things that you get from teaching him stuff. So you actually have to find these recipes out in the wilderness. Pretty straightforward. Holy crap, 40,000 gold. See, that's a lot of money. Oh, that's to level him up. Sorry. Yeah, that's to level him up. And then you can actually utilize him. It doesn't actually say the gold cost to actually do these, but not a huge deal. So yes, that's kind of the gist of what we're looking at for the jeweler. Now, as far as the Mystic goes, let me see. The original Mystic was supposed to enhance our items, and I believe I mentioned this earlier. The enhancement system was removed, and they changed. I wonder if I still have this article up. No, I don't. I took it off. No big deal. They removed the enhancement system, and what enhancement was supposed to do is just add enchantments, basically similar to World of Warcraft. It was going to add glows and special effects. So let's say I wanted to add I don't know, a fiery enchant. So it puts fire, like a fiery swirl, a red glow on my weapon, and then it adds fire damage to my weapon. It's, again, very straightforward. It's not meant to be complex, but that's how that worked. And the Mystic was going to be the NPC to do this. So instead, they removed the enhancement system, and instead of making these enhancements, they just put them into the affix pool. So now enhancements that we previously would have gone to the Mystic for, we can now have randomly spawned on our items. I mean, it kind of sucks because originally we'd have an affix spawn an item, and then we could enhance it. So we could have, like, the Helm of Warmth, like I was talking about before, or of the Eagle, whatever, and we'd have that stat, and then we could, additionally enhance it, and then put a socket in it with a gem. So there was a lot of stuff we could do to items, and that's kind of been nerfed a little bit. Like I said, enhancements were now put into the affix pool. So that was the primary and the only functionality of the Mystic. So now, if you guys remember from the Runestone episode I did the other day, I talked about how they had this unattuned gray rune where you could find a rune, pop it in a skill, and then you could it would permanently be with that skill. So it would permanently spawn as a rune type and an affix. Something that Jay Wilson toyed around with, and again, this was at the press event where I was pretty much talking to him one on one with telling him I don't really like that system. It's got this, and this, and actually I like that. I bring this up. I watched the developer diary, and he said that they were coming up with the ideas of the Runestone system, and he came up with these ideas, and some loyal fans told him that they weren't going to work before he even implemented them, but he just wanted to implement it and see how it worked. And I mean, I'm sure he's probably not talking about me and Dennis specifically, but I guarantee, like, we're up there. I mean, he was the first time the public heard about this Runestone system was when he told us, and they were just brainstorming it again. He told us their kind of ideas, what they're just tossing around inside the office at this press event, and I'm like, well, that's not going to work. I've got this problem, this problem, and this problem. And he's like, well, I guess we'll just kind of have to see how it goes, And then this is, pull away from my tangent and wrap it up with a nice little bow. This is how the Mystic ties in. What he was saying was that maybe we can have the Mystic wipe runes, and that'll be her other functionality. So she'd be able to enhance items and wipe our runes clean. So we get this gray unattuned rune, pop it in a skill. It spawns an affix on a type we don't like, so we have head over to the Mystic, and the Mystic will wipe our rune clean. So now we again have this level whatever rune, or this level whatever gray unattuned rune. Since they did away with that system, The Mystic's only functionality, again, was the enhancement system. And like I said, they decided to just scrap that and put it in the affix pool. So now the Mystic did absolutely nothing. So they were like, well, it doesn't really have a unique feel to it. She's kind of useless. She does the same thing that a random item would potentially get, so that was kind of the reasoning for that. So they scrapped her for now, but they already had her in the game. They already had quests and whatnot lined up for her. They had her art done, her functionality and interface, everything was good to go. So it'd be very beneficial for them to use the Mystic in some way, shape, or form. Whether or not she comes back as an artisan or a follower or whatever in an expansion or a future content patch, we're not exactly sure. But my point here is that, and actually I think Alex Mayberry mentioned this in one of his interviews I was talking about the other day, was that they pretty much had her good to go in the game and ready for ship. So she, for all intents and purposes, can easily be used in whatever they choose to use her for. So that's kind of the gist of the skills, or sorry, now I'm confusing myself. That's what we've got going on for the crafting and the artisan system. I don't really think there's anything else for me to touch on here. So I'm going to wrap up things with a little bit of a community Q&A like I did last time. I really like doing that. Kind of gets the chat involved and gives you guys a reason to watch live. So I'm going to wrap that up with a little bit of community Q&A. Probably work on some homework and then maybe do some Diablo 2 ladder streaming later on. Flip to my nameplate and just kind of let the questions come in as we go. Yeah, Diablo 2 is less than 2 weeks away at this point. Yeah, as soon as this live stream is done, it just automatically goes to the VOD section of my channel. You can just check it out right underneath. It says like videos or something. What is the max level? The max level for Artisans is level 10. Max level for our characters is 60. And actually, in the expansions, they're not going to be increasing max level at all. Pretty important to note. Pocket 951 says, Dear Sixen, I heard that you only be able to find the highest 6 levels of gems, which means you would find over 20,000 of these to make Radiant Star Gem. Yeah. The amounts of the gems in order to level everything up got pretty ridiculous. Blizzard basically, like I said, they wanted to keep the end level gems relatively rare and hard to get to. So it's going to be pretty ridiculous to get to that end level, but Blizzard basically said that they're going to, if it is that ridiculous, then they're going to scale things down. And actually, I think they even did already scale things down because, like I showed off, let me try and find this again really quickly. Progression for the jeweler. Yeah, here we go. It only requires, I believe, three of them, 3 per. Oh yeah, actually, never mind. Duh, I'm just failing at math right now. So yes, it's 3 per level, and then you need 3 of the next level to get to that level. So yeah, it exponentially raises. So Blizzard basically said, like I said a couple of seconds ago, that if things get ridiculous and nobody can really get to that end level gem, they will fix that. So it's not really something I'm worried about. How are you going to do a marathon of D3 release with very little sleep? I don't really know how that's going to work out. We've got the launch party planned on the 14th. So we're just going to have to kind of roll with that. I'll probably be playing at midnight and definitely streaming it. And then I've got my daily going up like 2 days later. Obviously Monday, Wednesday, Friday still. So, I don't know. I'm just going to kind of wing it, play it by ear, and see how it goes. What I'll probably do is talk about Act 1 for a while, Act 2 for a while, and I might separate it up that way. I guess we'll just kind of, like I said, I'll play it by ear and see how that goes. Do you like the new rune system versus rune words from Xizen? Huh. That's a pretty cool name. It's like Sixen, but it's kind of different. So yeah, anyway, do you like the new rune system versus rune words? Um, they're pretty different in nature. The new rune system, like I was talking about in the other episode, the rune system specifically affects skills as opposed to affecting items. And I spoke about rune words earlier in today's episode. Rune words specifically affect items. So basically, you find, let's say, Ral Tier Tal Sol, Ral Tier Tal Sol. I think that was what Inside was. Ral Tier Tal Sol. Those 4 runes, and you have to put them in that particular order, and it gives you these new affixes and new stats on an item. They're just 2 completely different systems. I don't really think that they can be compared. Do you feel that with gems, this will be this? What affects stats rather than what? Hang on, I gotta read this in my head first. Okay, I understand your question. So yes, basically he's asking, do I feel that gems are going to be the replacement for the stat allocation, for being able to allocate your own stats? Because like I said, again, in the, I think it was the Runestone, and it might have been a class episode, I don't remember at this point. God, I'm getting up there. I'm like episode number 7, jeez. But yeah, I talked about this earlier. For character customization, you can't manually allocate your stat points. The game does it by itself. So do I think that gems are going to be the replacement to this? Kind of, sort of. Gems they add, from what I remember, like specific stats like that. I think particularly the Emerald, I think I showed off, does +7 dexterity, or actually it used to back in 2010. I don't know what it does right now. I could double check really quickly. But will that be a replacement to the stat system? And no, I don't think so. Yeah, see right here for the Emerald, it does crit hit damage and extra gold for monsters, and they all have different functionalities on them, so they all affect different items differently. They have it classified by helm and weapon, and I'm assuming you can do armor and whatever else. But do I think this is going to replace the stat system? No, I don't think so. It's just an extra level of itemization. In Diablo 2, gems are worthless. Do you think gems will be worth a lot more in Diablo 3 in terms of trade currency? Yes, I definitely think gems are going to be worth a lot more. Now, the only reason why they weren't really worth much in Diablo 2, and actually they were originally, I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the day it was like, 40 perfect gems for a Stone of Jordan. That was ridiculous. Stone of Jordan was supposed to be rare, and that was like the currency. So will they be more valuable? Will they be more valuable in the Diablo 3 economy? Yes, I think so 100%. And the reason why they weren't worth as much towards the end of Diablo 2 was because Lord of Destruction came out. It added runes, and with runes came rune words. So why would you put a gem in this socketed item when you could potentially make it a rune word instead? So the thing was that rune words more valuable than just socketing items with runes. Now there were exceptions. I mean, well, actually, I mean that's not even true, because really the only time I ever used a gem was Perfect Topaz, and that was just the one I found personally most valuable. Pretty sure most of the community did too. And that was just for extra magic find. Of course, I believe an Ist rune did more magic find percentage than a Topaz did, so it was always more valuable to use runes over gems. Diablo 3, there are no runes, or at least there are no runes or rune words that can be put into items. Like I said a couple minutes ago, that system changed completely. So basically, like I was saying, if you don't socket your item and you don't put gems in it, you are potentially missing out. And it's as simple as that. If you're trying to min-max or even just get your character stronger, you want to take advantage of that system. We considered doing an episode on Uber Diablo and endgame content. I hadn't originally planned for that, but that is a freaking awesome idea. Maybe I could talk about that in the launch party, because I kind of needed some topics to go over. So that is a great idea. I will talk about that. You're the man, Chris Grass. Mind Crush. What do you think is the best character if I want to solo the game on every difficulty? And that, my friend, is the question in everybody's minds. That's kind of really hard to say. They're all basically being built to be able to solo everything by themselves. So, I mean, it's really hard. I mean, each of the characters have their own, pros and cons. The Barbarian is supposed to be tanky, but, if I choose to make a melee wizard, then my wizard's going to be tanky. Yeah, and Love Crasher says the Monk. Well, obviously, Jay Wilson at the press event said the Monk is OP, and so yeah, everybody pretty much thinks that the Monk is going to be OP, especially because he can heal, but he has the lowest amount of health, so he's relatively he's a glass cannon basically. He does a lot of DPS and low health, unless of course you make a tank kind of Monk, which is very possible. So yeah, I think. All right, let's just wrap it up with this last question. The Radiant Star Topaz listed on the website says they return 1800 damage to the attacker in a weapon hit. Could you make a build around using the effects of high-level gems? You most certainly could, and actually that's perfect. It's a great way. This is a great question to end the daily on. Somebody during the beta actually made what I'm going to call just a Thorns Barbarian. All of his items were that exact stat: return damage to the melee attacker, which is pretty much Thorns. Thorns aura, again, it was a paladin aura from Diablo 2, and it just returned melee damage. So yes, you could most certainly do that. Like I said, somebody did that during the beta, and it was ridiculously hilarious to watch. He just never he ran around and never swung his weapons. He just stood there, let the enemies hit him, and they just died because he had so much melee return damage. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Like I said, Diablo is all about making up those crazy builds, so that's definitely one that I want to try out once the game comes out. So yes, that's gonna wrap up today's daily episode. Let me just check what we've got going on for next time. And episode 8 for next time is going to be health and resource systems. So yeah, that's gonna be on Friday, 3 p.m. PST, 6 p.m. Eastern, same time as normal. So next time I'm going to talk about the health and resource systems, and that might be a little bit boring for some people. I'm going to do my best to make it interesting, but I want to let you know not to miss that one out because that is going to be a perfect segue into the encounter system for PvP or PvE. And then the next episode, the PvP episode. That's going to be a ton of fun. So you do not want to miss this. Like I said, it's going to be a perfect segue into those really two important things. It's going to be PvE encounters, and actually maybe Chris Cress, I'm going to talk about Diablo 2 endgame there, and PvP. So yeah, health system is going to play a huge role in both of those particular PvE and PvP, obviously. So I'm really excited to just talk about that so we can get into the cool stuff. All right, guys. So that's going to wrap up today's episode. I'm going to flash to my name point, play a little bit Diablo music, and we are going to call it a day.